We ask that you bless them in this time of need. We thank you, Lord, for the rain, and we ask for more. With us today in this courtroom, Lord, help us all here and to do the best of our ability. In Christ's name we ask, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, at this time, any person with business before the court not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the court. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Ms. Summers?
I'm just wondering if the camera's rolling for the YouTube video?
Yes, ma'am. I have a new camera. That it? Okay, court to discuss and consider increasing project schedule and staffing. Thank you.
Phew.
We're doing good.
Not sure how many of you can do it. We're gonna try to haul some of the millings at least for the trail out here. The judge has said that we've gotten the grant. And so is the trail already bladed out the way it's gonna be for millings we put on?
It's not ready for millings yet.
Okay.
Now, it's fairly close,
Okay.
but it's not there yet. So in the center of the whole property, an area has been cleared out for the milling to go there.
Actually, if at all possible, when we haul them, because I'm assuming you're going to want us to blade them in.
After the project starts.
We don't,
So with the grant, the application was approved. There are some things they need to do. They're saying expect June 2023 to be able to start, but don't do anything before then, other than we can get the materials there and be ready for it.
it just causes us to double dip thing to get it done, is the only thing. And if it doesn't come pretty quick after that, the heat will set those millings up. And we had to go out and needle millings for TxDOT one time. And it's not an easy process.
I understand. Well, I didn't realize that when we started the whole project, which we've got it. We've got the grant.
Yeah.
And that walking trail around that perimeter trail is a big portion of our batch.
And so we would need 2 loaders and as many trucks as possible. Get it down, one at Roscoe, one here, in order to stack that material since it can't be put down. Yet,
Right.
is it possible that it's far enough along that we could blade it and put the milling down as we come? We might not need a loader, but we would also need it.
We can't put them down now because that's part of
That's
the
part of the
batch.
grant. Okay. So it cannot start until then.
Right.
Oh, that makes it hard. Okay, it's hard enough as it is.
Are you guys gonna help load it?
I hope we will help, yes.
Okay.
We don't have but 2 trucks, and I think you've got 2.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Jim a week ago and asked him if he thought that his guys could help. And he said they are just so busy that there's no way. I don't know, Sean, are y'all gonna be able to help?
That's kind of what we're doing. We're gonna do our best.
When we're doing, we've got 10,000 projects. I mean, we're not done with. We started projects we can't finish. But at the same time, those millings are free, except for the fuel. The fuel's gonna come out of non-departmental. Don't know if there's any room there to help pay the payroll and all this stuff, because this is not gonna be a slow, one and done job. I think you've got 3 trucks, right? Okay, so that would give us 7 trucks. And we're talking about 100 plus loads. It's gonna take a week. And so you've got to have 7 employees between 3 precincts, and you've got to have 2 front-end loaders, one to load it at Roscoe, one to stack here. So there's 9 people that's going to be taken out of the precincts to do that. And so I think we can get it done. And
You're talking about 2,000 tons, right?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So there's 18 yards in a belly dump. And so a yard weighs about 2,300. So you can take 2,300 into 2,000 and you will find out how many loads. It's going to be 100 loads. And it's a long ways. It's, we do it for our precincts, and rightly so. It's free. But we're doing this for the county. And so we do it as quick as we can so we can get back to work. But we just need to set a date to when we will start.
And they've only extended our time through the middle of June.
So really can't do it, but we're going to start Monday, if at all possible. If it's not raining or something, we're going to try to start Monday morning. We'll take my front end loader out to Roscoe. One of y'all will furnish a loader to stack. We'll get it done as quick as possible and as much as possible.
I hate hauling in that far in the heat.
I know, but it's either do it or don't.
Right.
And I just say we need to do it. And a lot of people are going to use that trail. It's beneficial to a lot of people, and
Like you said, it's something for the county.
it is.
Not for the
So,
precinct.
yes. So we get it done as quick as we can. And y'all let the foreman know, and if there anything changes, otherwise we're looking at Monday.
Okay.
Thank you. Court to discuss and consider contracting with Purple Wave Auction Company. We talked about that last time. You wanted to look at their auction service. Have y'all had an opportunity to do that? Look at what?
A little bit. My concern for them is most of the stuff we have is not worth them fooling with.
Well, right now, the prices of everything is so high.
Yeah, I
They're gonna
understand.
do a little better, but, and, they get theirs off the back end.
Yeah.
We've looked at doing an auction for a couple of years
Oh,
and it
okay.
just hasn't come to fruition.
If we approve them and they decide they can't do it, we didn't lose anything.
Right.
And if they will do it, we got rid of a lot of junk. And there are precious metals and a lot of computers. I don't know, there's just nothing but a bunch of junk out there. But if they'll do it, hallelujah.
We have not usually had very good luck doing auctions ourselves.
You're exactly right. Local auctions are just terrible.
Yeah, it's not good.
And so for that, the things that are there that all departments have to get rid of, I would not want to deal with it myself. But if they'll do it, that's their business. So if they'll do it, praise the Lord.
I don't have a problem with it, but I hated to say it's all junk, but
But somebody else did.
somebody else did.
It's surplus. Okay.
That's a better word.
Sorry. Well, when you take the computer motherboard out of it, it's right. Oh, well. So I'd make a motion that we allow Purple Wave to come and take care of all of the surplus that we have that is not something that I would sell on eBay. I think our equipment, I was looking back at that, and I promise you it'll be better than Purple Wave. And we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
As soon as we get a new credit card.
So I said, oh, but
Motion and second, all in favor. All right, thank you. We're gonna skip down so that we can go ahead and let Conley and Company do theirs. Court to hear 2021 Scurry County audit report from Conley and Company. And then we'll come back up to the top.
Can you come over here? Is this all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, I'm Aaron Miller with Company Company out of Abilene, and I am going to present on the 2021 audit for Scurry County. You should have 3 documents in front of you: a really thick bound report, which is a full audit report, another small bound report, which is our required communication, and then the slide handout, which is mainly what I'm going to focus on, so we don't bore anyone with a 75-page audit report. So I'll bore you with some slides instead. But so 2021 was a good audit. If you flip to the first or the second page there, audit opinion, it was a qualified opinion on the report, which is an except for. So all of the balances were materially correct in our opinion, except for the county has not implemented GASB 75, which is, it's been that way for several years. That's just the other post-employment benefit standard that would require the county to obtain some actuarial reports. And I think the decision was made a long time ago to omit that, which is fine. We just have to say that in the report. The pension liability is accounted for, but the OPEB, excuse me, the OPEB liability is just omitted, which is really just an actuarial number. It's not a, a number that the county's going to have to pay. Same with the pension. It's just a retirement number. So except for that, the financial statements for all the funds and all the government-wide statements are materially accurate. So a good audit report. The next slide is just really a table of contents of that big report. It shows all the different sections of management discussion analysis, all the different financial statements, the notes, the budget and actual reports, pension plan schedules, combining financial statements, and internal control section. So when you're bored later today, feel free to read through that report. I'm sure most of you will. And with that, I'm going to jump into just some summarization slides of some of the numbers in that report. So the next slide, total assets and liabilities, governmental activities. This accounts for all of the county's funds except for the enterprise funds, which is the EMS, airport, golf course, and Hermley Waterworks. So the blue line represents assets and deferred outflows for 5 years, and the red line represents liabilities and deferred inflows. So not a huge significant or change in trend there. The big thing there is the blue line is larger than the red line, which means your assets exceed liabilities. So you can see the nearly 35 million, roughly 19 million in capital assets net of depreciation, and then largely the rest of that is cash and tax pool, and close to 14 million for everything except those enterprise funds. And then the red line, which is essentially liabilities and debt, that is right around almost 25 million, which is comprised of $11 million in bonds payable, about $1 million in capital leases for various equipment, $1.7 million in pension liability, and $2.4 million in deferred inflows related to that pension liability, and then $6.5 million in taxes collected in advance, which show up as a liability for the county. So that kind of gives you just an overview that the assets and liabilities have trended pretty consistently for the last 5 years. Nothing really remarkable to comment on there. The mix of those balances is also pretty much roughly the same breakout for the previous 4 years. The next slide is the same exact information, except this is just for the enterprise funds or business type activities, which is EMS, airport, golf course, Hermley Waterworks. The assets are quite a bit larger. The red bar, which is the liabilities, is pretty much non-existent. There's just a few small handful of liabilities in those 4 funds, and $5.8 million in assets, which is made up mostly of 3.2 million roughly in cash and tax pool, and then $2.6 million in net capital assets. So those four funds are supplemented by the county, with tax dollars, and so there's really not many liabilities there to speak of. I believe there were maybe some loans a few years ago, but those have all been paid off, like capital leases or loans, but really there's no liabilities to speak of on those four funds. The next slide, net position in governmental activities. Net position is essentially equity, or if it was a business, it would be equity. It's called net position in the government-wide statements. And so you can see the blue line there is trending pretty steadily the last 4 years, just over $10 million. It decreased about 12 to 20. So really that doesn't represent a cash loss. $12,000 is really just a full comprehensive loss that includes $1.5 million in depreciation and other, pension adjustments that are non-cash. So really, essentially, it's just the county was break even roughly on a full accrual basis of the county. So really a pretty standard result in this economic climate. So nothing really to be alarmed about there. It's if this were trending, if this blew, pretty good job financially weathering this climate that we're in now. So all things look pretty good there. And the next slide, again, is the exact same thing, except for just the business type activities. So the net position, since they don't have any debt or much debt, since those four funds don't have much debt, the assets that we've talked about, 5.8 million, roughly mirror the net position of the equity. So the blue line there went up about 142,000 from 2020 to 2021, which means those four funds experienced net income essentially of about 142,000. When you add the four funds together, that's the result. So those funds are supplemented with tax dollars to achieve that result, but all in all, the enterprise funds did fairly well. Also, consider all things considering. The next slide, net position by category. Essentially, this is essentially the same 10 million we looked at on a few slides before, but it's broken out between invested in capital assets net, which is all your PP&E less debt, less accumulated depreciation. That's the blue line, which is just over 6 million. Unrestricted is the red portion of net position, which is about 2.5 million. And then the green is restricted, which represents unspent grant funds, which is why that green line popped up. It's been about 400,000 for the last 2 years, and it hopped up to about 1.3 million, which represents grant funds that have not been spent yet. So that is essentially restricted. And the next page is the same thing except for the business type activities, which is those four enterprise funds. Most of the net position for the business type activities is unrestricted, just over $3 million. And then the investment in capital assets net is about $2.6 million. So nothing really remarkable there. Pretty steady trend. Those four funds are pretty heavy in property, plant, and equipment for all the equipment that they operate. So that's a pretty common trend. Again, those two, red line and blue line, combined from 2020 to 2021 increased about 140, which was just a result of the positive operations from those four funds. The next slide just gives you an overview of the governmental revenues by type. The red line, which is just under 15 million, represents essentially tax dollars, which is ad valorem, sales tax, and other various mixed strength tax and things like that. And then the blue line, which is the program revenue, is all your other fines and fees, all the other revenue generated by the county. So that just kind of gives you funds come from, and again, that pretty consistent on the last 5 years on that trend. The next slide kind of breaks down that 14 million on the slide before. Of that 14 million, 12.6 million was property and other taxes. Tax collector fees is the red line, about almost 500,000. And then the green line, which is other, represents some insurance proceeds which were received just as miscellaneous. I think that was hail damage that was incurred during the year. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the breakdown is of that tax related revenue. And then the revenue by type on the next slide for the business type activities or enterprise funds. So this is the EMS, airport, golf course, and Hermley Waterworks. The blue line for each year is charges for services. The red bar for each year is the tax allocation provided by the county. And then the green line is essentially represents grants and other miscellaneous income. And you can see the blue line there in 2019 and 2020 popped up pretty high. It had been roughly 1.5 million up to over 2 million and then back down to 1.6. That is largely related to the EMS fund. In 2019 and 2020, there were some health and human service reimbursement supplements and various other COVID things that happened in 2020. In 2021, it hopped back down to 1.6 million, which is essentially, it was more just patient, private pay or insurance collections. And so it's not surprising to me down a little bit based on the last 2 years, especially when private pay is the hardest one to collect there. And with the economic environment, I would imagine there's been quite a bit more non-payment for services that have been experienced. So that just kind of, outside of the EMS, all the other funds were pretty comparable to other years, but that was the reason for that tick up and then back down. Still larger than what it was in 2017 and 2018, but that's the reason it went back down. The next slide, fund balance and total. I've said net position several times. Net position is equity that is on the full accrual basis of accounting. Fund balance is probably what you all are more used to with all the different funds that operate on the budget. They have that fund balance. So the fund balance in total for all of the governmental funds of the county, well, this excludes the enterprise funds, which do not use the system of accounting, but so general fund, road and bridge, and all the other non-major funds. Overall fund balance of about $5.6 million. 7 of that is the general fund. 2.2 of that is road and bridge, and the remainder is all of the other non-major funds, which is, there's a bunch of them. Courthouse security, probation department, there's too many to really name, but all those other small ones represent the remainder of that. And then the next slide is really just more of the same. Of that $5.6 million, the blue line there is the general fund in the road and bridge at $3.8 million, and then the $1.78 million represents all those other small non-major funds. So really the county's in really good shape financially and fund balance wise. So really not much to dwell on or worry about there. I did add a slide. This one is new, the government-wide cash position. This just kind of gives you a view of the cash and tax pool countywide. So from 2017 to 2021, the blue line represents unrestricted cash. The red line represents restricted, which restricted is usually set aside, or you're required to set some aside for debt service, for bonds and things like that. So for 2021, overall cash position of 16.8 million unrestricted and about 426,000 of restricted cash. So that kind of gives you an overall picture of the health of the cash health of the county, which is in really good shape. Required communications, that small bound document goes through all of our required communications, which essentially is just things that we're required to communicate during an audit, changes in accounting policies and practices, new standards, major estimates used by the county, disagreements with management, difficulties. We didn't have anything to report there. The audit went very smoothly. Angela and Kirsta do a good job in their offices of keeping their arms around all this. And I know it's not an easy job, and Tricia knows that as well from working with her for many years. So it's a lot to keep up with, and you guys do a good job of keeping it all together. Really, the last slide of any information, summary of auditor's findings. We did have one finding to communicate under governmental auditing standards, but it's not really a big deal or anything to get too worked up about. We're required to look at the collateralization of county funds, which are public dollars. And so the bank keeps, you have FDIC insurance, and then the bank also has to pledge securities in your name to cover any balances in case something were to go wrong there. At one point during the year, I think it was on 10/28/21, just due to timing, the deposits were not fully collateralized. And what I mean by that is there was $668,000 exposed, which was very temporary. And talking with Kirsten and Angela, that's kind of a thing where the county's supposed to be on top of it, but also the bank watches that. And I think the issue was that there was a bank account held by the county showing up on a view for online. That was immediately corrected. It's not a huge deal, really. It was very temporary in nature, and out of $16 million, it was $668,000. So it was really just a small timing thing. But that was the only finding or issue that we were obligated to communicate during the audit. So nothing really else to speak of. A pretty good financial performance, all things considering. So that was pretty much all I had, unless anyone has any questions.
Good news.
Yeah.
Is there anything that can be changed to head off something like that again in the future?
Oh, the deposits?
It's
It's
already
already been corrected.
When this finding happened, I emailed all of them about it. I also contacted the department that happened. She notated, because it was the tax office, that's when we have significant deposits coming in. She had called the bank to inquire if there was enough collateralization for this deposit. The bank had notified her that there was, only to find out there wasn't. It was less than a 24-hour period. We are now tracking that collateralization every single day. It will become more significant again when we have that tax revenue coming in. But it was kind of a miscommunication on the bank's part. They had told the department that it was okay. It was not. We are now going forward.
And it's fully documented.
Mhm.
Does your firm just basically look at numbers? Do you jump off into looking at invoices and accounts payable and things like that?
We audit the financial statements to verify that the material account balances are correct, which would include testing invoices, bank statements, just on a test basis, on a test level. I mean, we don't go through and look at every single transaction on an audit, but we are focused on the numbers. We also focus on, internal control. Any recommendations there would be communicated during the audit, but we do look at details, but only on a test basis to verify that those significant accounts are accurate.
I do have a question. As far as purchasing assets, do you find it odd that an asset was purchased in an employee's name and shipped to their home address?
I'm not aware that happened.
We'll have an invoice. That was my specific question. Is that something you look at, or is that something that Angela should look at?
Well, I mean, I guess that would be we do look at asset additions on a test basis. We would look at it to verify that the asset existed. I'm not sure if that item was pulled during our testing or not.
It was purchased on a credit card account and that it was attached to the monthly credit card transaction log. So the credit card was verified and signed off on by the official. And then we just paid it as when she reviewed the invoices, she noted that the address on there was not the address of the business. I couldn't verify if it was a home address or not because I don't know the home addresses of every employee who works in the county.
Well, it is shipped to and billed to Terry Williams at 1830 Pierce Avenue, and it's for a plasma cutter. And, I mean, I have a question about that. I don't think that should be a normal practice for anybody to order and ship to their personal location. I mean, it's obvious it's not the location of precinct farm because I have a list of those addresses.
They require someone to be there, and there was no one there.
It could have been shipped to this courthouse.
A plasma cutter,
Yes.
you know the size of that?
Well, I mean, besides shipping it to
And-
your house,
Okay, this is getting way off base. If that's something that you are concerned with, you can bring that up at the appropriate time. Thank you. Thank you so
Any other
much.
questions from me?
Any other questions?
We enjoy working with you guys and glad to do that.
Also welcome to come out to the barn because it's there. You can come and look at it. Be glad for you too.
Thank you.
We appreciate working with you guys and enjoy doing all that.
All right. There's no need to vote, it's just doing a report. All right, we're gonna go ahead and conduct a public hearing on the proposed tax abatement. And we'll start that at 10:33. How are y'all doing today? Good. Any discussion from the public on the proposed tax abatement for the battery that we're looking at?
This include all A through G or just A?
No, this is just A, guys, the public hearing. If you want to give it, if you want to discuss it, it would go into all of this stuff as well that is in the proposed tax abatement. So, which we're looking at.
This includes the battery and the kinetic energy.
Correct. Correct. And it's a total of 60 megawatts at $1,000 per megawatt. And market value of approximately $50 million for the project. That's a best guess, right?
Yeah, it's right around 50, like maybe off by $1 or so, right? So.
Dollars. All right. Any discussion, any thoughts, concerns? From the public?
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I don't have any questions about the abatement, but I have some questions about the facility. And I don't know when the proper time would
Now is a great time.
be. Thanks, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners. Some of the questions that I have concerning the facility was, one question from the last meeting, Commissioner Williams was going to talk to the Williams that live just east of that project about where they had objections and not to that project. And I haven't talked to them anymore since that meeting.
The Williams were the ones that signed the purchase options.
Yeah, they're the ones who were participating in the project.
Actually, my intention was to find where the building would be in relationship to the road. That was my intent.
Well, it was,
And I did find that it's right by
It's right off the
Springs
road,
Road.
Camp Springs Road there.
okay,
It's not out on the hill somewhere.
which is how far west of their house?
It's
I think
it's maybe like, 20 yards, 30 yards maybe 50 yards away.
West
No,
of the
it's
house?
further.
Oh, sure.
It's further than that. The property boundary runs parallel with that new barbed wire fence that's been put up out there between the substation and their home. So it stops just short
Well, it's
of,
between the substation and their home.
yeah,
Anyway,
there's a
this-
barbed wire fence right there and.
It's
and-
right next
and
to the
and
substation.
The property is
In the plowed
Is-
area?
in the plowed area. That's
Yes,
correct.
sir.
Okay, well, it's, anyway, the conversation I had with Ms. Williams, they were under the impression when this started that it was gonna be a small facility like the one on 37th Street. And, anyway, they were not, she told me they were not for a big facility. We have property just on the east side of them. And our concerns are, you know, how much noise there might be from the facility in nighttime, daytime. If there is any residual effects from the magnets or the lithium batteries. Is there a bond from removal at the end of the project? Because, you know, we think it's gonna be a detriment to the value of our property, which is just east of there, as far as having that big a structure to the west of us. And that's, and was there an environmental impact study done?
You want me to, I can answer all those questions for you.
Okay.
So,
I wouldn't expect the commissioners to answer all the questions.
yeah,
That's okay with you,
so,
Judge?
that's for the sound level, it's about 80 decibels or so, just during the day. So it's not that loud. It's a complete enclosed building, right? So you're really not going to hear anything going on there. You know, maybe during construction, it may get a little loud during that period of time, but once it's fully operating, there's really no sound from the batteries or the gravity storage. The batteries are in these, you know, fully weatherproof containers, right? There's really nothing getting out of those or into those batteries, so I wouldn't be concerned about that. We do full environmental studies, you know, phase 1 ESAs, wetlands, cultural, the whole works on that stuff. That's standard across, you know, our wind, solar, battery, even this gravity. So all those environmental studies have already been done. Nothing was flagged on any of that. We do a lot of engineering work as well. We do heavy geotech work, which is boring into the ground, right? Making sure the ground can support a structure like this. We don't want to build anything on iffy ground. So all of our engineering studies are done. All of our environmental studies are done. Everything came back very vanilla. Nothing crazy got reported. As far as taking it down, so we are purchasing the property, right, from the Williams family. We plan on being local community members here for a while, right? So the project could be operational for quite a bit of time, right? But if we do ever sell the property back to its current state, so, and we will be taking it down fully and what have you.
In the event you don't sell the property and the facility's obsolete or not functional, will the structure stay there?
I wouldn't think so. We're not in the business of just leaving assets behind. There's a lot of environmental concerns with that, right? There's a lot of just regulatory concerns with that too. We really aren't in the business of doing that. We usually pick it up after we leave it there, or after we fully operate it.
Is there a requirement to take it down?
I don't think there's one with the Williams, but there are a lot of state laws in place that require us to take down renewable energy projects, which is what this would constitute as. Yes, sir.
Do you know which law that is?
I couldn't
As part of
couldn't tell you off the top of my head. No, sir. I couldn't tell you the section, page number, or anything
You don't
like
know
that.
what section it is?
No, sir.
I'd be more concerned about it being abandoned than I would be operating as far as appreciation of property value. And if it's a law, then it should be easy to track that law as far as removal. I know there's one on bonds on wind generators. It was passed a number of years ago.
Mhm.
But, I think just like pipelines or anything else, once they've been inoperable so long, there's a requirement to remove or drain or flush, or you can't just leave them there like they were. So,
We still have them. We fight them all the time.
well, I know,
Abandoned pipelines that are too close to the top of the ground in our ditches.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got them. Nobody wants to
I
say
know.
they own them.
We had a pipeline leak on Deep Creek several years ago, nobody could claim either.
Exactly.
They pumped several barrels of oil out of the ground at 10 feet. So, anyway, that's all the questions I have. I would sure hate to see any abatements given without knowing exactly what the law is that governs the facilities. Thank y'all very much.
I have one question, Judge. So y'all are purchasing the land from the Williams, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's the way I understood it. And they're aware of what you're fixing to do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep, Dave and I here had a full hour and a half, 2 hour conversation with them, quite a few months ago on that, so.
Yes, sir.
Judge, my conversation was with Miss Williams about a month ago. And she was not aware that it was gonna be this size facility.
That's
So,
not, yeah, that's.
Well, we had Will in the room with us when we had that meeting, so we might refer back to, to Will, because we made sure we wanted Will to be there to make sure there wasn't any confusion and that everything was understood. But we had a long in-depth conversation with them and showed them the website of what the facility was going to look like, discussed it in pretty extensive
Isn't
detail.
Will sick,
He wasn't sick when we talked to him.
Is Will sick?
Mr. Williams?
No.
No.
Oh, Will
Will
Collier,
Collier.
yeah,
I'm unaware if Will's sick, but
yeah.
well, anyway, I've had a conversation with one of the Williams and they had a conversation with other Williams and my conversation was different.
yeah, our conversation included the Williams and Will Collier in their living room. And we went over all the visual pictures. We had an extensive conversation about what was going to be constructed. And so,
Judge, if their conversation was several months ago and mine was a month ago, apparently there's some confusion between Ms. Williams, what transpired from their conversation to my conversation. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
I can speak that we had our meeting the morning prior to the first time we addressed the court.
Okay.
So, I'm blank on how long ago that was, but the first time we addressed this body, we had met with them earlier that day.
Okay.
So,
All right. Have you had any other conversations since then with him?
I've talked with Will. Will Collier, their grandson has had some questions about it, and I've been talking with him about it. And they pretty much said defer to, Will is the main point of contact there, so.
All right, any other thoughts or?
You said that wouldn't, on 5D, would right now be the time to?
We're on the
Address
road
that
use
at all.
agreement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that actually,
Or do you want to wait?
no, you can go ahead and discuss it now, because we are actually, that's gonna come, we don't have the road use agreement today. We're gonna look at it at
I
a later
just want
date,
some
but
clarification
yeah,
on,
absolutely.
the first question is myself and then, some other concerned citizen. But, first off, I guess what is a road use agreement? I just couldn't, and excuse my ignorance, but I couldn't find it on the county's website of truly what it states, and it may vary with any entity,
It names the roads that
Coming
they
in.
will be using that are county roads, and they agree to either put the road back like it was before they started the project, and or, as they have done nearly every time with my precinct, and one time with precinct 2 as well, they give us money in lieu of, because we have the equipment to repair.
to fix it yourself instead of them doing it.
Exactly.
They're not a
Yes,
construction business.
and so that road use agreement would not be in this.
Right.
agreement. It would be if it's approved, then it would come out in the next court meeting to approve the road use agreement for those roads that would be used during the project.
So they are pretty well separate in every project. I mean, they're gonna change.
They can't, yeah, because of the road. the
More than
different
likely,
roads that are
yes.
used,
Okay.
yes.
Now, they'll-
That's what I figured. I just didn't want to take that assumption,
Sure.
but needed to ask.
It's our understanding
Clarify.
the county has a form that they prefer to use, so we will be working off
Right.
their
Yeah, We've
document.
already been redlining that.
Yeah, we'll be working off their document that they provide us.
And if those funds are given to the county for road repairs, how do we know as a public that those will go directly to repairing these specific county road surfaces and not to commissioners to spend as he or she chooses?
I can tell you that when precinct 2 got those funds from the wind farm, he put it right back into the road that was damaged by that wind company.
We took a different approach. We bought equipment that could be used from now on to repair all roads. And so like a Durapatcher that actually patches potholes permanently rather than using the old method that we had used years even before I came in. That is a cold mix that if you've ever been out on US 180 East, that's what TxDOT used, and they were custom repairing those or putting more of that in. And so we used it for that. We also used it for a tank that would hold an emulsion because that's what it takes to use the Durapatcher. And we're not having to go with a distributor every 3 days or 2 days to pick up a load in Lubbock. We're actually able to take a transport load and continue to work on the roads as we go. We also bought other equipment to use in the very same way to be able to keep all roads moving forward in good repair rather than just spending that money to repair those 5 miles.
So it's up
So we-
to each commissioner to spend according, correct?
That's what it
Is
has
that what
been.
okay. I think that answers everything.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 10:48. All right, court to discuss and consider tax abatement agreement with Cross Trails Energy Storage Project LLC for the following project. Property owner is Carla Nona Williams. Applicant for abatement is Cross Trails Energy Storage Project. Name and location of reinvestment zone is Scurry County Camp Springs Road, number 1 reinvestment zone, located near the intersection of Camp Springs Road and County Road 1113 in Scurry County, Texas. Description of improvement is construction of an approximately 60 megawatt energy storage facility. Estimated cost of the improvements is $50 million. And it would, at 60 megawatts, it's $1,000 per megawatt. At about $60,000 per year.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is the property owner still stated as Carla Nona Williams? At what point will that change her?
It's whenever they purchase the property, I assume. Right now, currently, they are the owners of the property, Carla and Nona Williams are.
So at what point does that change? Does it
You're
take
saying-
the abatement?
Whenever they purchase the property, whenever the company purchased the property. I can't tell you when that's gonna be.
Yeah, we have a purchase option for a set amount of years on it. You know, we have to get through development items. This tax abatement's a big driver on that, right? So we haven't actively purchased the property from them, but there is this, the signed purchase options in place that we can act on whenever the project's ready to go into construction.
So will you come back and readdress this when they become the owner?
No, because that's between them. That has nothing to do with us. The ownership of the property has nothing to do with us.
I would assume if they're still willing to sell it to Cross Trails,
Yes, sir. Yeah. Like I said,
I assume at this point they still are, because they can probably get out of it if they want.
yes, sir. Yeah. Like we've said, we've been talking with the family. Like we mentioned, we showed them everything that we showed y'all. We showed them, right? So, yes.
But my point is, they still are able to get out of it if they don't like what y'all say.
I doubt it. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know that.
We're not in the business of forcing folks to sign something if they're not feeling comfortable with it, right? So we've never been in the business of that. Maybe some other developers are, but we're not, right? So if they came back to us with any concerns, we would work through that with them, right? And if they didn't feel comfortable with doing it, then we would work that out with them. We wouldn't force that upon them if they did not want it to happen, right? This is a good financial opportunity for them, right? We decommissioned the wind farm, like you all know. We try to bring a new resource into this county, and using the Williams property is a big factor in that. So we do have an agreement with them in place that says we can act on it. But if they were to come to us and say they aren't fully comfortable with it, we wouldn't. I've never seen us do that before, where we would just force it.
That is my point. If they're still willing and they haven't said anything.
They haven't said that they're not willing.
Okay. Maybe it's their property, and if they must still be in agreement with you if they have said nothing to y'all. That's my point.
Exactly, yeah. And Will Collier, the grandson, has asked me a couple questions, same questions like how loud is it? Where is it going to be at on the 20 acres? Things like just general questions like that. But like I said, they do think this is a good financial opportunity for them. And like I said, everything that we've showed y'all, we've showed them. So.
Well, I wasn't browbeating you. I'm just making a statement that there's still a certain amount of control with them. If some issue comes up.
Yeah, if they had an issue, yeah, they could easily come talk to us about it and we can get it resolved with them.
That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Judge, can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
Do y'all happen to know what a wind turbine generates as far as decibels?
Oh, man.
I'm supposed to know the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah.
I'm supposed to know the answer, but you're gonna catch me off guard and I don't.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, but I do know this gravity storage will only produce maybe about 80 or so decibels. So,
The reason I asked, and don't quote me on this either, but I don't think it's much over 80 that requires hearing protection by OSHA standards.
If you're right there at it though.
I'd have to look at it. I mean,
At
yes,
what-
sir.
At what distance?
yeah, it's a distance, yeah. And like I said, this is a fully enclosed building.
I was
you know.
just curious,
Sure.
honestly, if you're standing there
Google says 43.
on winter, really. Knows everything.
And that 80 decibels, is
Sound
that
loud.
inside the building or outside the building?
It's directly right outside the
Enclosed.
building. It's not, yeah,
Okay.
it's not, I don't think they're gonna be able to hear from
Just
their
like if you're
kitchen,
working
but
at
it's,
a
like I
gas
said, it's a fully enclosed structure, right? I mean, it's not open at all. It's fully enclosed, so.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
Well, I make a motion that we approve the tax abatement for Cross Trails Energy Storage Project. And if somebody has a problem with it, to put in the state law that says that they have to remediate.
And that would be with the county attorney's approval of the contract and the judge can sign it.
Right.
I'll second that.
Okay,
And
thanks, Lee.
the county attorney has looked over this.
He will do it.
Did he? Okay. I'll have him look at it one more time.
Okay.
And if y'all want to add something in the agreement that says we need to remediate as well, that's fine with us too. That's completely fine. After we can definitely amend it to say where Cross Trails LLC is obligated to remediate, if that makes you feel comfortable as well. So
Just kind
we're not in the business of leaving things
of trying
behind,
to
so,
please everybody,
I'm sorry.
trying to please everybody.
Well, that's not what we're not in the business of leaving stuff behind, so
Probably something to put in it.
Yeah.
we can add that in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion is second, all in favor? We don't have the, yes, sir.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
Is a transcript of this be available?
It's all, not a transcript, there will be, it is being recorded,
Okay,
so, there will be minutes, but it's not a transcript. We're not required to provide a
but
transcript.
it is recorded.
It is recorded.
Thank you very much.
On YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. It'll be on YouTube.
All right, we don't have the road use agreement prepared at this time. We'll bring that up the next meeting. Court to discuss and consider request from EMS Director to transfer funds from Texas Class to capital expenditures to purchase EMS cots and the steel chair. Thank you all. I appreciate y'all coming
Thank
in.
you.
I appreciate everybody that came in and spoke today. Jason, what do you have here you're wanting to transfer funds versus cots and the stair chair?
Yes, sir.
What's the cost on that? How much are we looking at to transfer?
Tell us the deal you got.
During budget time, I always review capital expenditures, especially this time of year, when prices continue to increase. So if we purchased 4 cots in May, first purchase 4 cots in June, we would spend $21,000 and some change more in June versus May. We have a 2014 to 2015 to 2016 year old, or those are the years of the cots that were manufactured. So just about 7 years old and older. And so I felt it was in the best interest to go ahead and purchase those in May versus June, because it was a significant savings. The price of those cots is about the same as that one savings. You're buying 4, but you're getting 1 for free. Purchasing in May versus purchasing in June. And the stair chair is in addition to, we only have 4 stair chairs. This will be added to the 5th ambulance. So,
What is a stair chair?
stair chair is a chair that collapses to about that wide and then unfolds into a chair, and it assists us in taking patients downstairs. So like if the elevator breaks, or a lot of our apartments don't, a lot of patients are in the 2nd or 3rd story of an apartment. There's no elevators in those apartments, so it assists us, and there's a little track system that allows us to move the patients down.
Is that the same thing you use when you're in a very confined house to get them?
Yes, especially if they don't have a wheelchair.
Right.
We can't get the cot in there.
Yeah.
That's another cool thing about these new cots, is that they'll fold down to a much smaller space. But yes, we use the stair chairs.
That's used a lot in the scene.
In those smaller
situations.
spaces and getting patients out, and especially if they don't have a wheelchair.
If you fold one of these new cots down to get it in, how you gonna get it out?
Well, we take the patient and put the patient in a sitting position, fold it down, take them through the narrow area, and then lay it back down.
In the cot.
On the cot, yeah. So,
Thank you.
so, and then the hydraulics have improved significantly on the cot, so they'll actually lift 700 pounds instead of, like it says, one of the current cots that we have says it lifts 700 pounds, but it takes medic assistance to do that. So, and we've tested it out before, a real patient, if you can believe it. So,
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the transfer of funds from Texas Class to capital expenditures to purchase EMS cots and stair chair.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, Jason.
I'll get with the treasurer.
Say money.
Thank you.
Court to discuss and consider approval and request to get unclaimed property capital credits from Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. Did they tell us how much that is?
I didn't know anything about it.
I think it's about the same amount as the last. About 17,000.
They don't care
That's what we
if
got
it's
last year.
$100.
We're getting money.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we get the capital credits from the Central Republic of Kansas.
All in favor? Yeah, I don't think they told us the amount that they told us it was. I'm gonna sign. All right, court to consider approval of line item transfers and budget amendments.
There are no budget amendments, and there are 4 line item transfers.
Okay.
The first one is for the district judge, or for district court. For interpreter, translator, $600 into the line out of the witness expense line. The next one is precinct 3, tires and tubes, $5,000 out of his fuel and oil. And then also precinct 3, maintenance and repair, $24,000, $12,000 out of road material and construction, and $12,000 out of fuel and oil to replace the engine in the tipper. And then the sheriff's office, tires, $2,000 out of utilities, and that was to replace some tires on one of these vehicles.
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable, total is for 3 weeks, semi-monthly payroll, bi-weekly payroll, insurance and retirement. And an ambulance that we purchased but are being reimbursed for. So, focus that before I tell you the amount. $2,514,680.98.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor? Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All
All in favor? Maybe we can get that new commissioner Monday to come help us.
Yeah.
Right? On video. Maybe we get that new commissioner on Monday to come help us.
Have a good day. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you, Cody.
Any questions? I'm good. Over what? I was like,
We
that has nothing to do with nothing. What are you back